everyone, and welcome back to another video. With some great weather we've had recently, we decided to explore around the Somerset area, and we just had to stop by this picturesque medieval moated castle that has settled itself in the quaint, quiet and beautiful village of Nunney. It was charming and quiet when we got to Nunney, and the village seemed empty but full of beauty and tranquility. The only things around us were the castle and its grounds, with a local cafe and a shop. Join us for a wander around these ruins. As you walk in through the castle grounds, you will wander alongside the lovely moat, which has ducks swimming alongside, and the algae that will lead you to a little wooden bridge that reaches to the entrance of the moody castle ruin. The building has a very strong French influence and consists of a stone tower keep with 4 round corner conical roof towers, which perhaps gives this castle its iconic charm. It was a huge keep and rose some 60 feet high with 2-metre thick walls. It's got 4 corners with battlements and each side has a huge turret. At the time, all of the turrets had capped rooftops. It was an impressive residence that sat within a moat. There was a kitchen and a chapel on the lower levels, a grand hall on the middle floor and chambers on the very top. Years ago, you could only enter the castle via a drawbridge that would have been lowered over the moat. This was to protect the family and the people inside. Nunney Castle is a French-style fortress that was built by the knight Sir John de la Mare in 1373. He was a soldier who fought in the 100 Years' War and made his fortunes in France. He also started to gain royal favour for his efforts in battle, and after the fighting, he returned to England and obtained a royal licence from Edward III to build this castle beside his manor house that already existed on the estate. This castle was not only to be his new residence, but it was to show off his growing wealth and power to the locals. It was later in 1560 that Richard Prater bought the castle. He was a wealthy man from London and had it completely redeveloped. The Prater family were Roman Catholic and royalists in support of Charles I. That was unfortunate during the Civil War, and this was to be their downfall when Nunney was taken over by parliamentarian forces. Soon after Oliver Cromwell and Lord Fairfax arrived with their army in Somerset, they asked Richard Prater to surrender his castle over to them, to which Prater refused and the castle was under siege. The parliamentarians were merciless and opened cannon fire on the fortress. Even though they managed to breach the castle walls, Prater hoisted his Catholic flag, refusing to surrender. But 2 days later, victory was hopeless, and so the garrison gave up the fight, and the castle was then completely ruined on Cromwell's orders. Interestingly, the castle only came under siege once. This was during the English Civil War, and in September 1645, parliamentarian troops had surrounded the castle for 3 days. It wasn't until then that the castle walls had fallen after a single cannon shot from above the hilltop through one of its walls. But fortunately, the castle held out and didn't collapse. It was only when Christmas Day arrived later, in 1910, that the building finally gave out. You can walk over the cobbled floors and look up through the turrets to explore what's inside them. There are some great views of the village to be had through the gaps in the foundations, and looking around the castle, and especially inside the conical towers, you can just make out the staircases, and they suggest that it would have been quite narrow and tight, as well as faint outlines of medieval tapestries around the tower. is a ground floor which was generally the site of the kitchens and the servants' quarters. You were just able to make out where the chimneys and the old fireplaces would have been. Then above the kitchens and onto the next floor they had the Great Hall. This would have been where the lord of the manor would have wined and dined his guests. And finally the top of the floor, which would have been the living quarters for its owners. There were probably a number of subsidiary buildings within the courtyard, but none of these survive. The castle itself certainly does, and surrounded by it is its peaceful moat. It presents an almost idyllic picture of a moated medieval castle. By 1926, the castle had altogether been abandoned to ruin and was covered in a thick layer of ivy and rubble from the crumbling foundations. At this point, it was handed to the Commissioner of Works, who began a project to restore it. The castle and moat were then re-excavated, and today, the castle ruins are owned by the English Heritage, where it's free to enter and explore. It's often described as one of Somerset's most romantic castles, and it's well worth a visit. Very close by is a church, a pub and a shop, which lead you nicely around the quiet village. It definitely transports you back in time to the medieval era with their knights and their fortresses. You can just imagine them with their shining armour and their horses entering the keep. It's really impressive that this castle has stood the test of time, and it's fascinating to take a walk through and see the old architecture. It'll only take up to around 30 minutes of your time, so it's not a day trip out, but it's a great stop off, especially as incredibly it's one of those rare free places like this that you can go see. Overall, if you are visiting the Somerset area, or perhaps have seen the close by castle ruins of Farley Hungerford, like we did in our previous video, Nunney Castle is a must visit place and one to put on your list. So we really hope you've enjoyed coming along with us around Nunney Castle and would love to encourage you to visit here. If you've enjoyed our video, please hit that like button, and if you haven't already, why not consider joining our Patreon or clicking that subscribe button. It helps us greatly. Thank you so much to our Patreons, and thank you for watching. Till next time.
Lighting up the dark, but there's nothing I can do. I can never get to you, so I'm looking for a miracle. Like it's somebody be so beautiful, yeah. It's only a dream, it's how I feel. That you deserve better than me. closer, better